Wait, I'm here. Please don't go. My 9-year-old son was screaming and running after his school bus on the side of a highway while the teacher looked straight at him through the window and told the driver to keep moving. It happened during a fourth grade school trip, nearly 2 hours from home. Ethan had gotten off at a roadside restroom stop, and somehow the bus pulled away without him. No phone, no backpack, no adult beside him. But this wasn't a mistake. Because when another student asked where Ethan was, the teacher immediately said he's with another staff member, even though several kids had just seen him pounding on the bus door. And 40 minutes later, when state police finally found my son sitting alone inside a gas station shaking and crying, the school tried to claim he had wandered off on purpose. The part that still makes me sick is that Ethan trusted her. He was the kind of kid who apologized when other people bumped into him. Quiet, nervous, always trying not to cause trouble. Before that trip, he'd spent an entire week packing snacks into his little blue backpack and asking me what museums look like. He'd never even been that far from home before. And according to the school, the person responsible for keeping him safe was his teacher, Miss Carla Jennings. By the time police called me, I could barely understand what they were saying. I just heard the words found safe and roadside gas station, and my wife was already crying before I even grabbed my keys. The drive there felt endless. When we finally walked into that gas station, Ethan was sitting in a plastic chair near the coffee machines with a state trooper crouched beside him. His face was red and blotchy. His sneakers were muddy. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the cup of water the cashier had given him. The second he saw us, he burst into tears. And the first thing he said wasn't "I was scared." It was, "I tried to get back on the bus." That sentence hit me harder than anything else, because kids don't say that unless they think they're being blamed. The trooper looked at me carefully, like he was trying to figure out how much to say in front of Ethan. Then he stood up and asked if we could step outside for a moment. I remember the cold air hitting my face as the gas station door closed behind us. And then the trooper said something that made my stomach drop immediately. "Your son's teacher told the school he never got off the bus stop in the first place." The problem was that didn't make any sense. "She watched him get off," I said immediately. The trooper nodded slowly, but his expression told me this situation was already getting complicated. Behind the gas station windows, I could still see Ethan curled forward in that plastic chair, rubbing his eyes with both fists like he was trying not to cry again. The trooper lowered his voice. "Your son says the teacher gave him permission to use the restroom during the stop, but the school is claiming he wandered away after everyone boarded." Wandered away, like he just disappeared on his own. I felt my chest tighten instantly, because Ethan wasn't reckless. He hated breaking rules. Half the time he asked permission to do things he didn't even need permission for. And suddenly, pieces of the day started sounding very different. Earlier that morning, before the buses even left school, Ethan had accidentally knocked over a bottle of orange juice while climbing into his seat. It splashed near Miss Jennings' clipboard and shoes. I remembered how embarrassed he looked when the other kids laughed. But according to Ethan, Miss Jennings hadn't laughed. She'd stared at him and said sharply, "Can you go one day without creating a problem?" At the time, he thought she was just irritated. But throughout the trip, little things kept happening. Ethan told us he'd asked twice when the next bathroom stop would be because his stomach hurt. Both times, Miss Jennings got visibly annoyed. One parent volunteer even overheard her mutter, "This kid is ruining the entire schedule." Then came the roadside stop. Miss Jennings had pointed toward the restroom building and told Ethan 3 minutes. Not 1 second longer. No other student got off the bus. And according to two kids sitting near the back, Miss Jennings never even counted heads before telling the driver to leave. Then the trooper's radio suddenly crackled. He listened silently for a few seconds before looking back at me. His face changed completely. "Sir," he said carefully, "the school district just officially reported that your son intentionally left the group." "Intentionally?" My wife snapped. "He's 9 years old." The trooper held up a hand, trying to calm the situation, but I could already feel everything shifting. This wasn't just negligence anymore. Somebody was actively trying to protect themselves. Inside the gas station, Ethan overheard enough to understand what was happening, and the look on his face changed. Until then, he'd just looked scared. Now he looked confused too, like he genuinely couldn't understand why adults were saying he caused this. I ran after the bus. He kept repeating. I was yelling. My wife knelt beside him and noticed fresh scrapes across his palms. Gravel was still stuck to one knee of his jeans. Injuries from chasing the bus down the shoulder of the highway, not from wandering away. Meanwhile, parents from the field trip had started texting each other. The story spreading between students sounded completely different from what the school was reporting. One child said Ethan had been banging on the side of the bus. Another said the bus slowed down for a second before speeding back up. And then a parent volunteer admitted something that made the trooper stop taking notes and look up immediately. She told the kids he was with another teacher before anyone even asked questions. Too fast, too prepared. About 20 minutes later, investigators pulled security footage from a gas station camera across the road from the stop. The video was grainy, but clear enough. You could see Ethan sprinting out from the restroom area. You could see him waving both arms. And you could see the bus slowing slightly near the exit, then continuing on to the highway. The room went quiet watching it, but there was no audio. No proof yet of what was said inside that bus. Then one of the parents hurried into the gas station holding a phone. "There's something you need to hear," she said. She pressed play on a voice message accidentally recorded by a student during the trip. Static filled the speaker for a second. Then Miss Jennings' voice came through loud and clear. "Don't stop," she said coldly. "He'll learn to stop embarrassing me." The second the recording ended, nobody in that gas station said a word. Not me, not my wife, not even the trooper. You could hear the refrigerators humming behind the counter while that sentence just hung in the air. "He'll learn to stop embarrassing me." The trooper slowly took the phone from the parent's hand and replayed the audio again, this time writing down every word. And for the first time that night, I saw genuine alarm on his face. Within an hour, police, school administrators, and district officials were all packed into a conference room at the school district office. Miss Jennings sat at the far end of the table with her arms folded tightly across her chest. The moment the recording played, she shook her head. "That's being taken out of context," she said immediately. "I never knowingly left a child behind." But the timeline was already falling apart around her. Investigators compared the gas station footage with the bus GPS logs and student statements. The timestamps confirmed Ethan had been stranded alone for nearly 50 minutes before anyone contacted authorities. Then the bus driver finally admitted something critical. When we pulled out, he said quietly, "I thought I saw someone running behind us." The room went dead silent. He swallowed hard before continuing. I slowed down. Miss Jennings told me Ethan had already gone with another staff member, and we needed to stay on schedule. That explanation matched exactly what she told the students. Except there was one problem. No other teacher had Ethan. And now more kids were speaking up. Lena, the student who first asked where Ethan was, admitted she saw him through the back window crying and chasing the bus. Another student said they heard banging against the side of the bus after it started moving. By midnight, parents were gathering outside the school demanding answers. Someone leaked the audio recording online, and local news stations started calling the district office nonstop. Then investigators uncovered one more thing. A text message Miss Jennings had sent just moments after leaving the stop. The trooper read it aloud from his phone. Maybe now he'll stop acting like a baby. But there was still one question nobody in that room could answer. If she thought this was just a lesson, why did she later lie and claim Ethan never got off the bus at all? The answer came out the next morning. By then, the story had spread far beyond our town. News vans were parked outside the school district office, parents were demanding emergency meetings, and the district superintendent was suddenly holding press conferences about student safety procedures. But behind closed doors, investigators had already figured out what really happened. Miss Jennings hadn't forgotten Ethan. She'd gotten angry at him. Throughout the trip, multiple students described her becoming more irritated every time Ethan spoke up, asking about the bathroom, apologizing repeatedly, moving too slowly during transitions. To most adults, it would have sounded minor, normal kid behavior. But to her, he was difficult. At the roadside stop, she gave him an impossible deadline and made him go alone while the other students stayed seated. When Ethan came running back toward the bus, she saw him. The driver saw him too. That part was no longer in dispute. The driver admitted he slowed near the exit because he thought they were stopping for Ethan. But according to his statement, Miss Jennings looked back, saw Ethan chasing the bus, and said, "Keep driving." Not because she thought Ethan was safe, not because she believed another teacher had him. She wanted to scare him. Investigators believed she planned to teach him a lesson for embarrassing her during the trip. But once students started asking questions and the situation spiraled out of control, she panicked. That's when the lies started. Claiming Ethan wandered away voluntarily, claiming she never saw him, claiming he had never exited the bus area at all. Everything became about protecting herself. When Ethan finally heard adults say that out loud, clearly, directly, he just stared at the floor for a few seconds. Then he asked something that completely broke me. "So, I wasn't bad?" My wife started crying immediately. Because for nearly an entire day, our son genuinely believed an adult had abandoned him because he deserved it. And the damage didn't disappear overnight. For weeks, Ethan woke up from nightmares thinking people were leaving him behind. He became terrified any time a car pulled away without him nearby. Even going back to school made him anxious. Meanwhile, consequences hit fast. Miss Jennings was fired within days and later charged with child endangerment and filing false statements during the investigation. The bus driver received disciplinary action for ignoring student safety protocol, even though he admitted he'd felt pressured by her authority. The school district faced massive backlash for initially repeating Miss Jennings' version of events before properly investigating. Parents flooded school board meetings demanding changes, and they got them. Mandatory student head counts, multiple staff confirmations before departure, GP's attendance tracking during field trips, emergency response protocols, all because one teacher decided humiliating a child mattered more than protecting him. A few months later, Ethan had to go on another school activity trip. He almost refused to board the bus. I remember him standing near the steps, gripping his backpack straps, frozen in place. Then his new teacher walked over, crouched beside him, and said quietly, "We don't leave anybody behind." Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Then another student slid over in the seat near the window and said, "You can sit here." And for the first time since that day on the highway, he got on the bus without looking back.